And then, somebody said they closed it, actually, whether, somebody's business.
So you invited us to make a presentation, we assumed you went here.
Pardon me?
You invited us to make a presentation.
I didn't invite you to make a presentation.
You sent a letter to our solicitor inviting us to make a presentation.
Right, that was in the supervisor's meeting.
You can't invite us to a supervisor's meeting, you're not a supervisor.
Okay.
So
What's your
we
point?
assumed that you wanted us to present here.
No, because I was at the supervisor's meeting when we discussed that. And
Why would
this is
you
not the-
invite us to a supervisor's meeting?
I
But you're
was-
not allowed to invite us to supervise, I don't
I
understand
didn't
why you
invite
invite
you
us
to the
to.
supervisor's meeting. I invited you
You
to
in-
discuss the,
So we're supposed to discuss it with you privately?
no, you're supposed to discuss it in the supervisor's meeting. This is not the place to discuss it because we deal with zoning and we deal with ordinances.
But
Right
you
to know,
signed the
right to-
letter.
It doesn't matter. This is not the forum to discuss anything other than ordinances and zoning. Anything else goes in front of the supervisor.
I'm just gonna be honest, you invited us to present it, well, I don't see how you can invite us to supervisor's meeting.
I'm not inviting you to supervise me, I'm telling you, this is not the place to discuss it. The supervisor's meeting is. We don't deal with that here.
But you invited us.
Kathy, I invited you, I will cover that at the township
You
supervisor's
sent it
meeting.
to our attorney, you didn't ask us at the supervisor's meeting, you sent it to our attorney.
And I didn't say anything in that you should come to the planning commission
You
meeting.
didn't say we shouldn't.
That was
We
all.
assumed, and our lawyer assumed, since you asked us, and you were on the planning committee, that that must mean when you wanted us to do it.
Well, your lawyer should understand that we have a code, 3 of them here, that tell us how to conduct business in these meetings. And we are charged with the following things: zoning and the ordinances. That's it. Anything outside of that goes to the supervisors.
But I'll again repeat, you can't invite us to the supervisor's meeting.
I'm
We
not
just show
inviting-
up to the you invited us to present it, is what you said. It said. That's what the letter said.
It's not going to be presented here. Right there is my attorney, ask him. It doesn't fit within the realm of what we cover in this meeting.
Okay, then
If
I'll
you wanna
repeat,
discuss
then
it-
why did you ask, why did you invite us?
I didn't invite you here.
You didn't invite us there.
Well.
You honestly, there was no mention in either fashion.
Right, it wasn't.
So
So
why
you
would I
should-
assume you would have invited us to a supervisor's
Why would I
meeting?
assume that you would show up tonight and want to do anything?
Because you're on the planning commission.
I don't know what your thought is or what you want to do. Why didn't you give me a call or give Tammy a shout and say, hey, I want to come in and do something? Did you? Did you tell anyone or ask anyone
Yeah.
about coming in?
Yes.
they
Actually,
contacted
we
me
did.
Because I'm
Pardon?
the secretary.
'Cause she's the secretary.
But I didn't know we had an agenda because I thought I would be notified that there was an agenda.
I put the agenda together the last meeting because of a whole bunch of stuff been going on and been trying to get straightened out. Couldn't tell you till I had it.
Okay, well, they asked me to be on the agenda and I said I hadn't been notified there was an agenda. I said, they asked me if they could be on the agenda and I said I wasn't notified there was one. So, sorry, but I.
Sorry if it was done today. You didn't have a chance to. Well, all I'm saying is, this, either way, if I would have known about it, I would have told you then. It's not, it doesn't belong in this forum. It belongs in the supervisors.
Lee, the bottom line is, she's right.
Who's
If
right?
she was invited, and the intent was to go to the supervisor, it needed to come from the supervisor. By you being the chairman, sending a letter and signing it, tells her you meant to come here. She's right.
No. she's
Yes,
not.
she is. It's in writing. If you sign something, you're representing the planning commission. Don't try to get out of that.
I wasn't representing the planning.
If you invite somebody as chairman of the
invited
planning
us to
commission,
come to a
and you
meeting.
sign the damn letter, you're inviting them here. End of story.
Do you have a copy of that? Lee?
Tammy is bringing it. Does Tammy have a copy of the letter? Ask Tammy to bring a copy of the letter. The letter that Lee sent us.
I don't know what's going on right now.
Oh.
Why? Or what do you?
They weren't required to make a presentation. He signs, sends a letter and signs. They then conclude that to come here and make the presentation. He can't invite them to the supervisor because he's not a supervisor.
Right.
I didn't ask them to come
But
here.
why wouldn't they be allowed to make a presentation anyway?
Because that's not what we do here. We do ordinances and zoning. That needs to go to the supervisor.
But again, why would you invite me to the supervisor meeting?
I didn't invite you to the supervisor. I didn't invite you anywhere. I just asked you to respond.
Hey, brother, Lee, anything you sign is
I mean,
I didn't sign it.
I would invite you to provide proof. I mean,
It doesn't say that.
I know you do. I know you do.
I mean, you could.
But I just
listen to what I heard. I know what
I
it
guess
is.
my question is literally asking you,
Happy New Year. How are you
what
feeling?
does that entail for tonight's meeting? Because I would agree, in all honesty, that this is not particularly warm, but I completely understand when it comes from Lee.
We
what the
agree,
conclusion is.
we agree that it was probably not, but since we were asked by a planning commission member, then we assumed then that he obviously wanted to speak about it because that's what he asked.
Okay, and like I said, I completely understand where that can be interpreted. I guess my question is to what extent were you planning on doing that tonight, so that we do not get derailed from what typically goes in front of them?
We don't, there's like, I think there's 20 slides in the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, I mean, are we talking a half hour?
Could be. Did you say half hour?
No, it could probably be done in 20 minutes.
Probably. I mean, we have no problem waiting till the end. I mean, if you wait till everything's done.
I mean, I guess
One
my
of the
only concern is
issues-
that the concerns are not from the planning commission's side. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, I don't think it's
Oh,
the members here that have.
we understand completely. Our question was repeatedly why he would invite us to a township meeting because
Well,
that's.
and my thing was, I was just informed that they were responding to something from Lee and they want to put on the agenda. And I said, fine, and I'm notified that, whatever
And
is
the
supposed to put on the
agenda's new too,
agenda.
in everyone's defense, the agenda, my
Yes,
understanding
no,
is, it's a whole new
But I'm saying, so
learning
they
process.
weren't
Yes.
notified that they weren't allowed to be on it.
I agree, so I guess my thought would be is if the planning commission members are open to it, if you guys want to do it here, that's fine. I just think you're gonna get, the forum is better. I mean, I guess if you did the preparation, you were coming solely for this.
Well,
I
no,
understand- I
we're
understand the
always
inconvenience
interested in
factor.
zoning and,
So I guess my request, but I completely understand, it's gonna be ultimately up to them, they can vote if they want to have you.
if Mr. Rogers will admit that he wanted us to come, he really didn't have a way to invite us to supervisory meeting, then we will wait till supervisory meeting.
No, that's correct. I don't have, I have
Power.
nothing to do with it.
Then can we ask why exactly you sent us the letter then?
I sent you a letter asking a simple question, asking you to respond to it. I'm sorry that was confused that I was acting as a planning commission member. I didn't know that that's what I was doing at the time.
You're saying it comes as a concerned citizen who comes to the meeting? Okay.
And what
I understand both sides.
the point where it says to invite you to provide, but that's why we took it as, and to send it to our lawyer as opposed to us personally, then we interpreted it as an official act. Do you understand how that could be interpreted?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I have a question now. Are things that go on the agenda supposed to be to me, or are they supposed to be to you?
Well, it should, you and I have been discussing what the agenda is.
So, but I'm saying, so if someone approaches me again about being on the agenda, what do I say?
Give me the phone. Give me an email. I guess it's you.
You guys-
It was
you
voted
guys
on
set-
that
you guys
Jerry
set-
does the agenda.
You guys set a time that someone needs to get something in
1 week in advance.
1 week in
Or
advance.
something.
A full week, okay.
Jerry,
So I guess moving
didn't
forward.
it say that, to let you know?
That's what the motion was
Right.
originally, but.
Okay, that's what I remembered, that's why we contacted Jerry.
No, and that's, again, this is brand new for them,
Okay.
so I think moving forward, we're understanding that, channels all flow through Jerry and through Lee, and you guys can set the final agenda a week beforehand. If something emergency comes up and needs to be put on, you can make a motion if you so choose to amend that on an as-needed basis, but generally speaking, unless time is of the essence, I think your rule that you passed back in December should stand.
Okay, lead us go.
Well, wait just a second. Come on.
Pledge of allegiance.
We gotta get what we got. You stand. I agree with what you're saying, Tony, we will. As soon as Jerry gets his chance to get things written down.
Well, we,
Need
are
to
you
start
calling?
the meeting.
Yeah, you're calling.
You ready? Okay. Time to call the meeting to order, 7 o'clock, and please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we do the roll call, I'd like to first of all introduce our newest member, Kathy Gilmore. Kathy comes from us, she was secretary for the township for quite a while. She was working with North Maine and a couple other things, so she comes with knowledge. And she's been at every meeting, every planning commission meeting, and every township meeting that I've been at. So I see that she has a well-versed and understands what's going on. With that, let's go ahead and do the roll call. Tony's here. Kathy Gilmore's here. Jody Noble is excused. I'm here. Bob's here. Keith's here. And Jerry's here. First thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes of January 10th, 2017. Any discussion? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Tony, a motion to accept. Do I have a second? Keith? Any vote? Tony?
Yes.
Keith? Sorry, Kathy? Excused. I vote yes. Bob? Yes. Keith? Yes. Jerry? And we have nothing carried over from the last meeting as far as any subdivisions or anything of their normal nature to take care of. So I suggest we move right on into zoning. And Mr. Michael Kearney, our lawyer, is ready to put on a presentation showing what has been worked on and where we're at.
I guess it's up to the board how you guys would like to proceed. I know members that are currently here have comments or indicated they would have comments to provide for tonight's meeting. Also, we received some comments from Jody, being that she was unable to attend. Our office has also sent out some comments on our review. I guess it's kind of, do we want to go with members that are here first? Do we want to just start with the beginning of the ordinance and start going through, and as we come through, if people have comments or if comments were made from Jody previously or we have comments, we could address it that way and just kind of work through the ordinance, addressing the sections that comments or questions are brought up?
I think that since you have written suggestions, written ideas, let's go through those first, and chances are they may leave it around what everybody's thinking anyway.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Let's give us page number.
Okay, yeah.
What keeps on?
So we're back, everyone's working off of the July 29, 2016 draft.
Yes.
I will direct, that's where I was thinking we should just go through, if that makes sense. I think we should just go through it, and if Jerry has a question or Jody had a comment, instead of skipping back and forth, if that.
Whatever makes it easiest.
Okay. So does anyone have any comments on
Yeah,
the,
so I'm starting on page 2.
on page 2, all right?
In 1016,
Okay.
at the bottom of the paragraph, it says, all other previous related ordinance provisions within the township code that conflict with this ordinance shall be considered repealed. So, does that mean that this code, anything that's in here that's not in here, then these are done?
If they conflict.
Only
Yes.
if they conflict?
If there's something on the books in the new draft, so the question was, there's a statement that says that anything that's on the books currently in the township zoning, in the township code, if it's in conflict with what is being proposed now, what occurs to that, it would be repealed for the sections that are contrasting.
Okay, then everything that's, oh, I'm
No.
sorry. I didn't realize. So everything, that doesn't conflict with it, then this stands and this stands.
Correct, correct.
At any point, will you go through the draft compared to the code to see what would conflict, to pull it out so that when people ask for a new code book, they have then a current, up-to-date book?
Typically, that is done through codification. There's a company that does that. That's not to say that the township cannot do that on their own. I know most townships go through and, some of the bigger ones get it updated every year. They go through, you know, there's 6 ordinances adopted that year, they submit it to that company. That company goes through, runs it through, and then they get an updated, you know, new updated book that pulls out old stuff with the new stuff that's there. That should be done obviously so that you don't have those issues. My recommendation would be to move through with this, to get the provisions and get them how they want them and how the planning commission, how the public, how the board wants that. And then the next step would be to then, whatever is finally adopted, because, you know, this is a moving target, whatever is finally adopted, then you would go through, again, whether they choose to go through with a company or whether they choose to designate that to the planning commission, to however they decide to do that, that would be the next step.
Is that something that if they had the E360 code that's, you know, online, that would be more easily done by them?
A word search, if you're able to go in there and do a word search, find as,
Yeah.
typically, yes. But one of the issues is what things are referred to in here. As we found out with some of the comments already, you know, sometimes it's called a telecommunications tower, other things call it wireless service antennas, you know, so that would make it easier, but that not necessarily is spot on. You know, you still gotta do, it's not just a simple clicking, you know, you're gonna have to look and say, okay, this is dealing, they call it abandoned vehicles, it's junk, you know, whatever it might be, but yeah, but ultimately, anything online that can be searched is typically more user-friendly.
JD has a question.
Couple questions. Do you have a copy, I haven't seen the new, as I understood, there was 2 versions, 1 and 2, or A and B, or whatever it was. And the version that went to the county was not the version, either of the versions that were discussed in the open meetings with Carolyn Yeagle or whatever. So do you guys have a copy of that so we can follow along as we're discussing it?
I can't speak to that specifically. The one I'm working off of and the one I believe the planning commission is the one that's on the website, the last draft, the draft 7/29/16 is the draft that I've been reviewing.
That's best. The other one went to Washington County is null and void. Been replaced by this one.
Well, which one?
This one, he just said, this one right here.
It's the one on the
dated
web, yeah.
7/29/16, it was
Is
on the
that the
web.
.1.1 from Carolyn Yeagle, I believe?
Mine doesn't have any other designation other than date.
Yeah, that's all I
It's the
have.
one off the website, to be honest.
2 other things, Michael. From what I remember, the ones that I saw back when, before it changed.
Yep.
One of the first paragraphs said that it's not meant to repeal or replace anything else, and already the first thing you brought up, you said that it'll repeal and replace. all the
Conflicting,
code.
it would. I don't know what those previous ones, I was not fully involved with that, so I can't speak. I don't want to put words in Carolyn's mouth or drafts. I know there was multiple drafts.
That's
All I
what
can say,
the
it's
early
not meant to,
version
it's
said.
not meant to completely supersede that. You know, because they did deal with a multitude of issues and different types of uses, nuisances, all those things are dealt with in there that might not necessarily be dealt with in here, but to the extent that they are dealt with here, the intent is that it will repeal laws that are on the books that are in conflict.
Well, I don't have a copy in front of me, but if it's worded the way the early ones were.
I don't know how they were worded now, but
Conflict how
the
it's
purpose of
worded.
this and the wording in here is that anything that is in conflict would be repealed.
Okay, and you were talking about the codes, what Jerry brought up, I heard part of that, but, Didn't the board, I missed the last meeting, but a few meetings ago, when it was brought up that the code book was out of date, there was various versions of the code book, because there's some residents that purchased code books and there's different information between what some of the planning commission members have, some of what the public has, there's different versions out there, and it's not consistent and not up to date. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the board made a motion or decided to get that consistent, go through the code books. In other words, fix what we got first, go through that, get it up to date, get it consistent, so everybody's on the same page. So you're not dealing with stuff from 1988 or whatever the date was. Did
Well,
we already do that, or?
Well, but what we did was the ones that were inserted into the draft zoning, Michael sent us all that same copy to look at. But some of them are, like, the one on adult uses is from 1998, and that's, that's the last time it was reviewed. Because that was my question the last time, was were any of these reviewed when they were just folded into the zoning, which, as far as anybody knew, they had not been. And that's part of my discussion tonight, too, when we get to those.
But to answer your question, I believe that the township is working on ordering the most up-to-date ones with that. Now, will things need to be pulled out of that based on what's passed here? Yes. Now, to make sure that we know what's in that book when they're referring back, I think the ones that were actually referenced in the draft zoning, the ones that were referenced, there was 5 or 6, I think I actually might have found one other one referenced. To my understanding, when I checked with Tammy, those are the most recent ones. As far as recent, that's a relative term, but there's no conflict of what we're looking at as far as what this is referring to back in that code. But that does need to be updated as well, and I think that's a process, that's the next step. Once this is done, to bring that into compliance, not only so everyone has an updated version, but the version they have wipes out the ones that are gonna get replaced with this and whatnot. So I agree that that's something that needs to be addressed. But I don't think doing that is imperative or completely necessary for this exercise. Is that a necessary exercise? I agree.
Okay, thank you.
So the next item up to bid.
Okay, mine would be on page 4, I believe it's coming up on page 4 of mine. It's subsection 203, zoning districts. I had mentioned that, they're called zone 1, 2, 3, 4. Planning commission members, if you have any suggestions on actually giving them designations outside of just a number, agricultural zone, business district. I just came up with zone 1. If you read it, zone 1 district is characterized by large lots, primarily dedicated to rural residential living, nature-based recreation, agriculturally oriented activities, and/or oil and gas related activities. I would say that sounds like a rural residential district. If someone else sees otherwise, that would be my suggestion for zone 1, to name it. So if someone's coming in there, they're looking, what's zone 1, rural residential is what that zone district would be called. That would be my recommendation.
That makes more sense to me, to do it that way.
And then for B, zone 2 district is generally characterized by agriculturally oriented activities and oil and gas related activities. I call that an ag district.
I question that,
Okay.
just because they're two small areas.
On the proposed zoning map, is that what you're,
Yeah.
okay,
And one of them is all woods, it's gonna be a compressor station.
okay.
It's gonna be. The other one is a pasture field, and it's gonna be a compressor station.
Okay,
That is a compressor station.
okay, so,
So I would question calling that agricultural,
okay.
because it,
Yeah, I was going off of, just as, yeah, I see what you're saying. So, do we want to call that?
You still want to call it agriculture with exceptions?
well, I,
Because that makes it sound, if you don't call it agriculture, that's the dominant majority of it, and you have 2 little spots that are.
Originally, I think that was called Ag 1 and Ag 2. So Ag 1 was like,
Majority of what we were.
would be Zone 1, and Zone 2 is what they called Ag 2. And that was the more compressor station areas, is what originally it was called.
What
So,
I,
that makes, okay.
what I wrote down just myself at home, for whatever reason, industrial,
Okay.
is just because that's what it's gonna be.
Does anyone else have any?
You call it which?
Zone two, calling it industrial.
Yes, it is.
Because it's going to, like I said, a compressor station, the whole thing.
Hey, Michael, where are you guys at now that Doug passed
Page
out?
4.
We're on section 203, page 4.
What's that?
I
Page
believe it's page
4B.
4.
Page 4, section 203.
We're talking about the naming of the zoning districts as opposed to just numerical, giving them actual names,
That's how it was in the beginning.
that they actually had names. That's, I think that's what Kathy was.
Yeah, it was Ag 1, Ag 2.
So zone 1 was ag 1.
That's why that
Zone one
said
was
that it was
agricultural
generally
one.
characterized by agriculturally oriented activities.
Yeah, I mean,
That's not gonna have it at all.
yeah, I mean, it's oil and gas related activities is what's there.
Well, originally, the Ag 1 was for farms, and you could subdivide and put other houses on it, but once you had yourself made into like Ag 2, the majority of it was taken up by oil and gas, and you couldn't add more houses or things like that. And that's how that was what differentiated
And I agree
between
with
it.
that, nobody's gonna wanna build a house there anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, nobody's ever.
but it is very confusing when you have the agricultural oriented activities on both, because it does imply that both could be done. You're not sure which part you want to be, if you were saying, I want my farm to be, I wouldn't know which one I would want. So that it is a little confusing.
And that's the purpose of zoning, so that someone moving in or someone coming or someone living here knows what they can expect around them, you know? So, is an Ag 2 designation, or do we not think we want anything related to ag? I mean, because it can still be, even if those don't go there, I would assume that's gonna be agricultural in nature unless something to that effect goes
Well,
there.
they've bought 100 acres there, they're turning into a compressor station.
There's other compressor stations already there.
Okay.
Isn't zone 4, industrial also?
Zone 4 she had as non-residential before.
Yeah, that's,
Your
yeah.
one
Just
says
called
it's
non-
intended
It-
to
yeah.
protect a variety
Zone
of-
4 was non-residential.
Whenever you look back at her word
So really,
document.
those are both in the same zone, 2 and 4, in this, on this map.
Oh, really?
Yeah. it
Well,
should
it just,
be
I
same
mean,
on
I'm not sure,
pink.
looking at the use map, there might be activities that are permitted in 4 that are not permitted in 2.
Well, it doesn't matter, because like they said, 2 literally is only compressor stations.
Yeah,
So,
just academic, yeah.
yeah, so they should be combined into one zone.
So on the map, where is the commercial industrial?
It's all this pink, or sand, and this gray is what's, well, this, yeah, 2.
So the
Which
recommendation
this is already a compressor station, and this is gonna
is coming, so the recommendation would be to add that,
Two
just,
might as well go into 4. Eliminate 1. There was, it's already designated as the 2's already compressor station.
does that comply with what you guys discussed previously?
Just make 2 and 4 industrial.
So we're just gonna combine, so.
Well, do you
4
want industrial or you want non-residential? That's what they termed it. But non-residential was what the term, but in the definition,
It allows
it
for
included
industrial.
industrial,
Yeah, because
yes.
there are some people that.
Because if you see
they have to-
industrial, people think that that means something different as opposed to non-residential. It could be a business too.
Well, because the one says commercial and industrial.
Under the principal land uses, 2 and 4 have a lot of differences.
But what they're saying is, on paper they do,
Right.
but in reality, based on where they're placing those, they're not, because they're already, the use is gonna be used up as compressor stations.
She had before, like the group homes that were conditional in zone 4.
But my understanding of what you guys
Yeah,
are saying
that's
is nothing
fine,
can
but-
go in zone
yeah.
2.
Right,
They're already
we're
spoken
just saying
for.
2 is already gonna be commercial, industrial, whatever you wanna
Yeah.
call it, they're compressor stations.
It can't
So
be
just,
anymore.
So
roll it
if
doesn't need
those
to be
ever
its
go
own zone,
away-
what's the point of having
And
its
that's the
own
only 2
zone?
spots that are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
But so
exactly.
if those go away,
Mhm.
for whatever reason, if they pack up and leave, whatever is allowed in zone 4 would be allowed to go there.
Yeah.
Is what they would do if we combine 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Unless someone else sees a need for another designation.
No, I think the smallest we can make the designations, the better off we are, the less confusion.
So then, so we're gonna call We're gonna call zone one ag.
Yes. Correct, zone one agriculture, and zone two industrial?
Or non-residential.
Well, two would
Because we're gonna allow
actually-
for commercial.
what is it, eliminated? So you use zone four as the definition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zone
Yeah,
four is
it
definition.
becomes zone two, correct?
Yeah, it's between 1 and 3.
That's it.
1, 2, or 3.
So that's gonna be non-residential.
Yeah, 'cause that's what she had it before.
Okay, so what, all I'm trying to figure out is for the next, zone 2 is really gone and 4 becomes 2.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, for zone two, there's more than, what I'm looking at the map,
Oh, you're right.
where the carpenter compressor station is. There's more covered there in gray than what the compressor station is.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
but that could still be commercial industrial because it's
Or
along the highway.
non-residential.
Oh, but you just wanted to say non-residential with it.
I don't know. When she started, it had like, there were 7 different zones. There was commercial, there was industrial, there was ag 1, ag 2, residential, non-residential. I think there were 7 different.
Yeah, there were 7 starting.
So the question would be, based on that area that is currently zone 2, the areas that would not be used up by the compressor stations, would the uses that would possibly go there, what is allowed in zone 4, and we could, you can look at that, you don't have to definitely make a decision, but, the uses that are allowed as part of zone 4, those other uses would be allowed on part of those parcels that are not taken up by the compressor stations. If those uses in zone 4 comply, or basically in line with what development could go in that area, which would make sense, knowing that you have those compressor stations on a majority of the parcels, then we're okay combining and just having the 3 districts now.
I think so.
I think there's too many differences to combine, that's my opinion. I mean, if you look at the proposed or conditional uses, there's a lot of differences in 2 and 4. You're just gonna combine them now, you're.
What are you saying are the differences?
Well, you
You
have
have to
the-
look,
yeah,
you look
that's
up
what
the
I'm saying.
specific-
If you look on page 5,
yeah.
5 and 6,
5 and 6. is
you can
there.
see which of the things are permitted and which are conditional.
Correct, but Eric obviously has something that
Well, you've got a lot of
pertains
things
to
there.
what he's
that
doing.
You're saying